two private pension plans make a lot of sense depending like on the living situation that you're in. So there's on the one side is the so-called flexible pension plan, where basically you contribute money, like you can decide what investment you want to have there. So it's can be 100% fund-based, right? And the money is compounding in the plan until you retire. And then you can basically choose to pay out a lump sum or have a lifelong monthly pension. So the benefits there, like also when you compare, for example, like investing in ETFs with a broker account, is that you have like a tax-free compounding in the plan. So while the money is in the plan, you don't pay any capital gains tax, right? And there again, if you wait until 62, you pay very little taxes on the pension, so 1 or 2%, right? And very little taxes on the payout. If you pay it out before that and you can't access the money before that, you just pay the normal taxes on the gains. This is like the very flexible option. And the second option, that's like the option that like 90% of my clients have. It's very popular like amongst experts, especially when you have a high salary. Because when you have...
What do you mean by high salary? What are the like price brackets where you consider high salary?
Yes. So when you just Google Einkommensteuerrechner, right? You just click on the first link that is not an ad, and then you get to like the page from the German government. And here you can see when we type in 80,000 salary, you can see how the German tax system works. Because here you see, okay, for the first 10,000 euros that you make, you pay zero income tax. And then the more you make, the more your tax rate rises also percentage-wise. Right? Yeah. So that's why you pay so many taxes when you have a high income, right? And what do I mean by high income, to answer your question, is above 62,000, right? Because you see here at 62,000, every euro that you make above 62,000, you pay 42% taxes on it. For like clients who have like above 60,000 euros income, pay like 42% taxes on their like euros that they make above that. So basically the base pension is so interesting when you have an income where you have this marginal tax rate of like 42%, right? Or
but this is even just individuals, right? So for example, if someone is married, their family income would be calculated, right?
Exactly. When you're married, like you have to take this number by double. So like a family income of over 120 plus, right? So that's where like most of my clients are, because like they work in IT or consulting mainly. And basically when you have this high salary, then you pay a lot of taxes, but then you get very little pension on it later. And what the base pension does, let's make an example. You make 80,000 or 70,000, we can calculate an example. Then you can deduct the full contribution to the base pension from your income tax. When you make 80K and pay 10K a year into a base pension, that directly reduces your taxable income by 10,000 euros. So that means like from the 10,000 that you invest, you get a 4,200 euros tax refund from the government. So that's why that's so attractive to many experts, because they say, okay, I have a high salary, I pay high taxes, let me deduct some now and get the pension later, right? Where my like tax rate is much, much, much lower.
But this amount is in addition to the government pension, right?
In addition, yeah. Okay. You get that in addition to the government pension, and very importantly, anywhere in the world. So not just when you stay in Germany, even when you go back to your home country or to another country, you get this pension anywhere in the world. That's a very, very important factor, of course. But you have to keep in mind, of course, like that tax deduction is a huge advantage, right? But you have to keep in mind there's also disadvantages. So not just talking about only the advantages, there are also disadvantages. And the biggest disadvantage basically is that you cannot access this money until you're 62.
Okay.
Right? So the money is
going to be 62.
Is 62. So the money is locked in the plan no matter what you do, by the way. The government also cannot access it. So if you go like insolvent or like fall like into the social system, this is like protected wealth, but you cannot access this until 62. So you should only invest money there that is specifically for retirement. And it is a pension product. So it means you get a lifelong monthly pension that is stable and cannot run out. There is no like lump sum payout option. So this is when you say, okay, most people say I want a stable income in my retirement. I want two factors, basically. I want one, a stable income in my retirement where my living costs are covered. I don't have to worry. And then they want flexible savings where you can do whatever you want with, right? And for like the pension part, you have the government pension and private pension plans. And for the like flexible savings, you do like create videos on there, how to like invest broadly diversified into ETFs, maybe some crypto, also of course real estate investing falls in the category. So you should always have like these both components basically. Right?
So let's say if someone is investing in a private pension, so what are the ranges? What are the general ranges that your clients invest, and are the minimum amounts, and what is the average? If you feel this should fill the gap of most people.
Let's stay with the 5,000 monthly salary. And when you proceed to step 3, there you see what monthly amount you have to put aside to fill the pension gap today in 1, 3, and 5 years with different interest rates, of course. And just for your viewers that they see, okay, maybe why is a Riester pension not so good? Or why is letting like your money in the bank account also not so good? Because you see there, when you put the interest rate at like 3%, right, you would have to put aside like 1,300, 1,400 euros a month just to fill your pension gap. So it gets like very, very hard when you have these low interest to fill your pension gap and have a good retirement. And even if you can put this money away with like 5K brut salary, that's like 3K netto, right? You certainly don't want to. So that's why it's very important to have a good interest rate there. And that's also what you teach like in your videos, that for over the long term, when you have a broadly diversified stock market investment, I'm not saying, okay, only buy Tesla stock, only buy Apple stock, whatever. When you're like really broadly diversified, so you can imagine like in a portfolio that we advise our clients to save in, there's 10,000 companies in there. So you invest in 10,000 companies at the same time. And yes, there's like volatility in the stock market and also in the world's economy, but over a long term, you always have a very good return there. So like when you wait.
Thing to mention here would be that everything has its risk. It's not guaranteed. Right?
Yeah.
Like when you're investing in the stock market, just like anything, even in the private pension plans, there is nothing guaranteed. But generally speaking, over the long term, there is a high probability based on historical data and how the stock market is. If you are diversified enough, there is a tendency of going in the positive in the long term.
Exactly. That's very, very well put. So of course, as you say, we can only like take historic data and look like as long as in the past as we can and make assumptions based on that. Of course, nobody can look like in the future. If we could, then we would already be like the richest man on the planet, right? If we could predict the future. So yeah, you're exactly right. From historical data, you see, okay, that when you do this broadly diversified investing over 30 years plus, then like your minimum interest was 7%, right? 6 to 7% that you can show from historical data. Of course, that is no guarantee for the future. But you see here, okay, you also need this interest rate because now when you see, okay, at 6%, so let's say 7% minus 1% cost approximately, then you see, okay, you have a very, very reasonable payment like from your private pension plan to fill your pension gap, right? So when you put in 400 or 500 euros a month, then you will be good long term. And that's not like yes, of course, it is money that you have to deduct, right? That you have to calculate in your monthly expenses. But it's not like that you have to have an empty fridge just to survive in retirement, right? So it gets really reasonable when you have like a good interest and a good pension plan. And you see even with 7%, for example, it drops down to 350 euros. That would be a reasonable amount to like 350 to 400 to put aside for this income, right? So that is like the average that my clients with this income like put aside. Of course, when you have higher incomes, then you need to put aside much more. So because you asked like for the average, So like most of my clients where you say, okay, you make 100K plus, right? So 90 to 150K, let's say, then they generally try to like max out the base pension plan, because you can only roughly invest 850 a month when you're like single in a base pension, right? So then they always do the maximum with like these salaries. And when you have like 55, 60, 70, 75, okay, then you see, okay, you can just use the calculator and see, okay, what would be sufficient for me like to put aside. Yeah.
Okay. So the maximum is 850 euros per month, and the minimum is depending on the person, how much they want to invest.
Yeah. Okay. So the maximum, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You can also just Google base pension Germany. There you can see basically, so this is a blog article on our website. There you can see basically what are the limits on the deduction. And that also depends on what your income is, because you can imagine every person has like 26,000 euros that they can deduct a year minus the contributions to the government pension, right? So the more you make, the less you can contribute, which doesn't make sense in my opinion. But you see here a rough estimate: when you make 60K, you can contribute 15K a year approximately. With 70K, it's 12K. And above 85, it's the 10K a year, so 850 a month. And then always my clients say after the consultation with us, hey, David, I would love to have known this 5 years ago, because then I could have started 5 years ago, started saving, started getting tax refunds. So it's just very important to get started. That should be like the main message of this video.
So the consultation with you guys, or at least the first consultation, is always going to be free, right?
Exactly, right. You get.
So I'll put a link with all of the information that you can contact David in the description below. It's going to be the first link. So make sure that you contact David if you're interested in getting a consultation and knowing more about the German pension system.
Perfect.
So, till the next video, like Wizard.